All right, so you sent over some research on hiking, and I gotta say, this is pretty fascinating stuff. It looks like there's way more to hitting the trails than just, fresh air and pretty views. It seems like hiking can actually have some serious benefits for both our bodies and our minds. So, what really stood out to you in this research?
What really struck me was how much this research highlights the difference between how inactive so many of us are and the amazing potential of something as simple as hiking to kind of get us moving and improve our health. It's actually kind of alarming. The research points out that a whopping 43.3% of the United States population is considered sedentary, and that's the highest percentage in the whole world.
Wow, 43.3%. That's a pretty big chunk of the population. Yeah. I guess it makes sense, though, when you think about it. We spend so much time sitting these days, whether it's at our desks or in our cars or even just on the couch in the evenings, it's easy to fall into that sedentary trap.
It is. And the research makes it clear that this inactivity, 0 hours, 1 minute, and 0 seconds, can have some pretty serious consequences. We're talking about an increased risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even certain cancers. It's definitely a wake up call.
Yeah, no kidding. It makes you realize how important it is to find ways to stay active. Sure. I mean, I've always enjoyed hiking, but I'll admit I mostly thought of it as a way to just get some exercise and enjoy the scenery. I didn't realize it could have such a profound impact on our overall well being.
Well, that's one of the cool things this research dives into. It really goes beyond just the obvious benefits of exercise. For example, did you know that hikers actually often burn more calories than runners or walkers?
Really? That's surprising. Why would that be?
It actually comes down to how much people enjoy hiking. Hikers tend to spend more time out on the trails simply because they're so immersed in the experience. They're not as focused on hitting a certain pace or clocking in a specific distance. Plus, the varied terrain you find on a hiking trail engages different muscle groups, and that can add to the calorie burn.
Ah, that makes sense. That actually reminds me of something I read in the research. It talked about a study involving a group of overweight adolescents who took part in an outdoor wilderness program, and they ended up losing way more weight than another group who did indoor exercise. Even though the calorie expenditure was pretty much the same, it really seems like being in nature adds a whole other layer to the equation.
I think you're right. And that's where things get even more interesting. The research goes into this concept called attention restoration theory.
Attention restoration theory. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Basically, it suggests that natural environments can help us restore our mental focus and combat that feeling of mental fatigue that so many of us experience in our busy, technology filled lives.
So, being in nature can actually make us mentally sharper.
That's the idea. The theory suggests that our brains aren't really designed for the constant stimulation of modern life. Always being plugged in, constantly checking our phones. It's like we're overloading our brains. Natural environments, on the other hand, offer what's called soft fascination.
Soft fascination. What's that?
Think about things like the rustling of leaves, the flow of water, the sounds of birds chirping. These are things that are engaging enough to hold our attention, but in a gentle, undemanding way. And this allows our directed attention, the kind we use for work and other demanding tasks to rest and recover.
So, it's like giving our brains a break from all the hustle and bustle?
Exactly. And it turns out that this kind of mental restoration has all sorts of positive effects.
Like what?
Well, for starters, studies have shown that being exposed to nature can lead to decreased blood pressure and lower levels of stress hormones. It can even boost our immune function.
Wow, that's amazing. So, basically, nature isn't just a nice place to visit. It's like the secret weapon for our health and well being.
I think that's a great way to put it. And what's really fascinating is how this understanding is starting to change how we think about healthcare. There's a growing movement of doctors who are actually 0 hours, 4 minutes, and 0 seconds prescribing hiking to their patients.
Wait, Doctors are prescribing hike. That's incredible. I've got to hear more about that.
I think that's a great way to put it. And what's really fascinating is how this understanding is starting to change how we think about healthcare. There's a growing movement of doctors who are actually 0 hours, 4 minutes, and 0 seconds prescribing hiking to their patients.
Wait, doctors are prescribing hike. That's incredible. I've got to hear more about that.
Well, one example that really stood out to me was the Children in Nature initiative. It's a collaboration between several federal agencies, healthcare professionals, and organizations, all focused on promoting the idea that nature is a vital part of health and well-being, especially for kids.
So we're talking about doctors actually writing prescriptions for hikes, just like they would prescribe medication.
In a way, yes. And some doctors are even going a step further by giving their patients resources to find local trails, hiking groups, even events.
That's amazing. It makes you wonder, could this be something worth talking to your own doctor about? Imagine getting a prescription for a hike instead of, or maybe in addition to, a pill. It seems like there's a real movement here, a real shift towards recognizing how important nature is for our health.
I agree. And it's not just limited to rural areas with easy access to trails, even in urban environments. Doctors are finding creative ways to connect their patients with nature. There's a great example in the research about a pediatrician in Washington, D.C., who actually mapped out and rated all the green spaces in the city.
Hold on. This is all so interesting, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface here. I definitely want to hear more about that pediatrician and these urban nature prescriptions. But maybe we should save that for later, the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's so much more to explore here, from the urban nature prescriptions to how this whole movement is reshaping healthcare. It's fascinating stuff, and I can't wait to dive deeper into it.
Absolutely. We've only just started scratching the surface, and we'll have to pick this up in our next session. So be sure to join us next time as we continue this conversation and explore how nature is becoming a critical part of the treatment plan for people of all ages.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of our deep dive into hiking, health, and how getting outside could be the key to a longer, healthier life. See you next time.